Yes, so very good evening to all of you. So all started, when you were coming back from your exams and after did the analysis of the paper, you would have started thinking about audit. Oh yeah, there is standard on auditing, and then there is the, items of financial statement, and oh yes, then there are the different types of entity. Oh yes, and I just need to read थोड़ा सा बैंक ऑडिट भी पढ़ के जाना है. ऐसा है ना, ऐसे उड़ते उड़ते ख्याल ऐसे आने लग गए होंगे. ओके राइट, तो एक थोड़ा रिविजन इस तरीके से शुरू करते हैं कि हम सोचते हैं कि कौन से चैप्टर्स है ना. तो एक तो है नेचर, ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप ऑफ ऑडिट, है ना. नेचर, ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड द स्कोप ऑफ ऑडिट. तो इसमें से हमें जो क्वेश्चन पढ़ना है वो होगा व्हाट इज इंक्लूडेड इन द स्कोप ऑफ ऑडिट, व्हाट इज नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन द स्कोप ऑफ ऑडिट, राइट. फिर इसके अलावा द इनहेरेंट लिमिटेशंस ऑफ एन ऑडिट, जो कि एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, राइट. फिर उसके बाद नेक्स्ट चैप्टर है ऑडिट स्ट्रैटेजी, ऑडिट प्लानिंग, ऑडिट प्रोग्राम, राइट. अगेन इस चैप्टर को अगर देखा जाए तो इसका एबीसी एनालिसिस में काफी वेटेज है कि इट्स अ चैप्टर जिसमें SE 300 का डिस्कशन है, थोड़ा ऑडिट प्लानिंग का डिस्कशन है, बट एग्जाम में जैसे एक हाथ क्वेश्चन तो आ ही जाता है, राइट. फिर उसके बाद चैप्टर है रिस्क असेसमेंट एंड इंटरनल कंट्रोल का, है ना. तो रिस्क असेसमेंट, इंटरनल कंट्रोल, द डेफिनेशन ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल, रिस्क असेसमेंट के बारे में वहां पे डिस्कस किया हुआ है. फिर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट और बड़ा चैप्टर है जो कि है ऑडिट एविडेंस, राइट. तो इसमें जो रिलायबिलिटी ऑफ ऑडिट एविडेंस, फिर जो SA 501 है, 505 एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशंस, राइट, इन्हें हमें थोड़ा ठीक से रिवाइज करना है, राइट. फिर उसके बाद एक बड़ा चैप्टर आता है जो तुमने हर दिन सोचा होगा कि ये चैप्टर पढ़ना है, और अब वो आखिरी मौका आ गया है जिसके पहले तुम ये चैप्टर पढ़ सकते हैं. तो जो है चैप्टर ऑडिट ऑफ द आइटम्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स का, राइट. फिर एक चैप्टर है जो है चैप्टर नंबर 6, जो है ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. अगेन ये चैप्टर अपने ए कैटेगरी में आता है कि स्टैंडर्ड, जैसे जिसका लेस एफर्ट एंड मोर मार्क्स, है ना, जिसके ज्यादा क्वेश्चंस भी आते हैं एग्जाम में, राइट. फिर इसके बाद है कंप्लीशन एंड रिव्यू, जिसमें 560, 570, 580 का डिस्कशन है, और 260, 265, 450 वगैरह, राइट. तो अगेन 550 देखा जाए तो एक बड़ा ही इंपॉर्टेंट स्टैंडर्ड है पढ़ने के लिए. फिर उसके बाद आता है ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, राइट. तो ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में भी हमें रिवाइज करना होगा द कंटेंट्स ऑफ ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, और इसके अलावा द क्लॉजेस ऑफ द CARO 2020, राइट. फिर 9th चैप्टर जो है ऑडिट ऑफ द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ द एंटिटी, है ना. जैसे हमने देखा कि एक पर्टिकुलर MCQ में उन्होंने बहुत सारा LLP का क्वेश्चन पूछा है ना. फिर कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी के बारे में, ऑडिट ऑफ ट्रस्ट एंड सोसाइटी के बारे में, गवर्नमेंट ऑडिट वगैरह, राइट. फिर चैप्टर नंबर 10 जो है ऑडिट ऑफ द बैंक्स, राइट, विच इज रिगार्डिंग द ऑडिट ऑफ द बैंक्स. और जो लास्ट चैप्टर है वो है एथिक्स एंड द टर्म्स ऑफ द एंगेजमेंट, राइट. तो एटलीस्ट ये जब मैं चैप्टर्स के नाम यहाँ लिख रही हूँ तो तुमने एक दिमाग में एनालाइज किया होगा फॉर योरसेल्फ कि कि क्या तुमने अब तक पढ़ा है, और क्या तुम्हें, है ना, पहले कौन सा चैप्टर करना है वगैरह वगैरह. ओके राइट. तो इसी के साथ मुझे आपको कुछ कंटेंट बताना है जो इस क्लास में हम लोग यूज करेंगे, या जो आप रेफर कर सकते हो, राइट. एक तो है ये सुपर 30 क्वेश्चंस जो कि आरती लाहोटी टेलीग्राम चैनल पे भी डाले हुए हैं. तो मैंने कुछ चुने ना, गिने चुने क्वेश्चंस निकाल के यहाँ रखे हैं. तो ऑन प्रायोरिटी आप ये चेक कर सकते हो कि इसमें से कितना क्वेश्चन आंसर आपको देखा हुआ लग रहा है, या जिसके बारे में आपको एक बार रिवाइज करने की जरूरत है. और अगर कोई ऐसे क्वेश्चंस है कि अरे ये तो मेरे हाथ से आई मिस्ड आउट ऑन दिस वन, तो फिर आप वो भी यहाँ से पढ़ सकते हो. तो एक अभी आपको आपका टाइम का बड़ा ही इफेक्टिव यूटिलाइजेशन करना होगा, है ना. तो एक आप क्या कर सकते हो, आप ये पर्टिकुलर 30 जो क्वेश्चंस है यहाँ पे, इसमें काफी हर एक चैप्टर के कुछ कुछ गिने चुने क्वेश्चंस है ना, ऐसे लाइक टॉप परफॉर्मिंग क्वेश्चंस टाइप हमने यहाँ इंक्लूड किए हैं, है ना. तो ये एक कंटेंट है. फिर इसके अलावा जो भी जब मैं क्लास में पढ़ाती हूँ तो कुछ रनिंग नोट्स बनती है क्लास में, है ना. जैसे अभी मैंने आपके सामने ये कुछ लिखा कि कौन से चैप्टर्स है वगैरह, राइट. तो ये जो रनिंग नोट्स है ये सारे, इनका अगर आप चैट बॉक्स में देखोगे तो मैंने एक गूगल ड्राइव का लिंक दिया है जिनमें इन सारों का PDF शेयर किया है ना. तो ये जो पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर्स के रनिंग नोट्स है, इनसे भी आपका बहुत ही क्विक तरीके से पूरे सब्जेक्ट का या चैप्टर्स के इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक का वगैरह रिवीजन हो सकता है ना। और मैं ऐसा चाहती हूँ कि लाइक फर्स्ट टाइम मैंने ये ऐसा यूट्यूब सोशल मीडिया पे या जो भी बोलो टेलीग्राम वगैरह पे इसका PDF शेयर किया है, तो ये ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा स्टूडेंट्स तक पहुँचे ताकि उन्हें ये बेनिफिशियल हो। तो कि पूरे 1.5 डे में वो, मैम आप बोलोगे हाफ डे तो अभी ऑलमोस्ट अभी शुरू हो चुका है, हाँ, तो जिसमें वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा सब्जेक्ट का कवरेज कर पाए और दे कैन गेट द जो ऑडिट का डर है वो चेंज हो जाए इनटू द कॉन्फिडेंस। ओके राइट, तो जैसे अभी मैंने ये पर्टिकुलर फाइल ओपन ही की है, तो हम लोग क्विकली रिवाइज कर लेते हैं द कंटेंट ऑफ द चैप्टर नंबर 1, which is regarding the nature, objective and the scope of the audit, right? The nature, objective and the scope of the audit, right? These are the engagement and the quality control standards. Okay, right? Engagement and quality control standards, है ना। चैप्टर के बिगनिंग में उन्होंने दिया है what is the importance of auditing, जिसे हम पढ़ते हैं कि it is a gift to the shareholders and the investors, कि audited financial statements are beneficial to the government, to the insurance company, financial institutions, bankers, trade union employees, shareholders and the investors, right? और फिर चैप्टर नंबर 1 में ये बाकी टॉपिक्स है, जैसे benefits, advantages of audit, right? Then origin of auditing, कि when it what happened in the ancient times, the medieval times and the recent time, right? Then the meaning and nature of auditing, कि financial statement audit is done in order to ensure that the financial statements are not misleading anybody, under which we have the 6 points. Then very important discussion, which is the OO, the overall objectives of the independent auditor. Another important question is the scope of audit. What is included in the scope of audit? So it says all aspects are to be covered in the audit. You have to check for the financial information, that the reliability and the sufficiency, what we call it as sufficient, appropriate. Here it is referred to as reliability and sufficiency of financial information, and also that information का क्या होना चाहिए, the proper disclosure, right? So this is what is included in the scope of audit. Important 5-star question. What is not included in the scope of audit? It says areas which are outside the domain of the audit or the financial statement, right? As an auditor, you're not an expert in the authentication of document. Audit is not in the nature of an investigation. As an auditor, you do not have the power of the search, right? So this is the scope of audit, plus minus what is included in the scope of audit and what is not included in the scope of audit. फिर एक important question है inherent limitations of an audit, जिसे हम popularly बोलते हैं ILLA, right? So what are the inherent limitations of an audit? एक है timeliness of financial reporting and the balance between the benefit and the cost. What you say, a restricted time जिसमें आपको audit खत्म करना है, right? फिर audit investigation नहीं है, right? Then एक लिमिटेशन ऑफ ऑडिट है कि नेचर ऑफ फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग, कि बहुत सारा मैनेजमेंट का जजमेंट इन्वॉल्व होता है इन द प्रिपरेशन ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, राइट? देन ऑडिट में प्रैक्टिकल एंड लीगल लिमिटेशंस भी है। प्रैक्टिकल कि यू हैव टू गो फॉर सैंपल टेस्टिंग, लीगल लिमिटेशन कि यू डोंट हैव द पावर ऑफ सर्च, यू आर नॉट एन एक्सपर्ट इन द ऑथेंटिकेशन ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट, एंड फ्यूचर इवेंट्स एंड कंडीशन, you don't know, you cannot say with certainty regarding the future events and conditions, right? So again, an important question for you to revise or study is regarding the inherent limitations of an audit. Okay, right? Then interdisciplinary nature, engagement and quality control standards, okay, why standards are necessary, duty in relation to the EQCS, और एक बड़ा ही इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है जो है एलिमेंट्स ऑफ एन अश्योरेंस एंगेजमेंट, राइट? तो क्या एलिमेंट्स है अश्योरेंस एंगेजमेंट में? 1, द 3 पार्टी रिलेशनशिप। कौन सी 3 पार्टीज है? द प्रैक्टिशनर जो CA ऑडिट कर रहे हैं, रिस्पॉन्सिबल पार्टी जो है मैनेजमेंट, और इंटेंडेड यूजर्स दैट इज स्टेक होल्डर्स, शेयर होल्डर्स। फिर जिस चीज का हम ऑडिट कर रहे हैं उसे कहा जाता है सब्जेक्ट मैटर। उस फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के लिए हमें देखना है कि क्या वो AFRF के हिसाब से बनाए गए हैं या नहीं, तो उसे कहेंगे हम सूटेबल क्राइटेरिया। क्या सब्जेक्ट मैटर इज प्रिपेयर्ड एज पर सूटेबल क्राइटेरिया, इसका हमें क्या चाहिए? सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट एविडेंस। और एक बार एविडेंस मिल गया तो फिर हमें क्या इशू करना होगा? द रिटन अश्योरेंस रिपोर्ट, राइट? द रिटन अश्योरेंस रिपोर्ट। सो 3 पार्टी रिलेशनशिप, दैट इज पॉइंट नंबर 1। फिर फाइनेंस सूटेबल subject matter for suitable criteria, sufficient appropriate evidence, and then the written assurance report. Right? So ये important question है chapter number 1 का elements of an assurance engagement. 3-party relationship, subject matter, suitable criteria, then after that the sufficient appropriate evidence and the written assurance report. Okay, right? For reasonable assurance, limited assurance engagement, right? So limited assurance, it is the review engagement, lower level of assurance, less number of the procedure. Audit, it is reasonable conclusion. Review, it is the limited conclusion. Right? Prospective, it is related to the future, like 31st March 2040. Right? So in prospective, what you need to check is the assumptions. Okay? Assumptions are not unreasonable. Then prospective financial information ठीक से बनाया है as per the assumptions. सारे assumptions have been adequately disclosed. And क्योंकि ये future oriented है, that is why CA क्या देते हैं? सिर्फ moderate assurance, right? सिर्फ क्या दिया जाता है? The moderate assurance. Okay, right. फिर इसके बाद if we look into, yes, the definition of audit over there, right? Then independence of the auditor, judgment of a person is not a subordinate, right, to the wishes or directions of another person who might have engaged him. Then the financial statement should not be misleading anybody, right? Overall objectives. What is the overall objective of the independent auditor? RFA, RFS, right? Reasonable assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatements prepared in accordance with AFRF, and then to report in accordance with the findings as per the standards on auditing, right? As per the standards on auditing, right? So reasonable assurance, free from material misstatement, and the applicable financial reporting framework, and the applicable financial reporting framework. So that is RFA, RFS. Okay, right. Then we have the entire process of audit given over here. In an audit, reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance. It is not a complete assurance. Why? Because the evidence that we get in the audit is the persuasive evidence and not the conclusive evidence. What is evidence? It is the information which could either be contained in the accounting records or it could be the other information, right, which authenticates the information contained in the accounting records. Okay. Right, then corroborative audit evidence, right? So this is just the running notes of the chapter over there, right? The example of internal control. Then we have audit evidence and a sufficient and appropriate. Sufficiency refers to the quantity, appropriateness refers to the quality. We have one question, okay, what are the factors influencing the sufficiency of the audit evidence, right? What are the factors influencing the sufficiency? We have MRS, right? The materiality of the item, risk of material misstatement, and the size and characteristics of the population. And quality means it should be relevant and reliable. Reliable, we talk about the principles useful in assessing the reliability of the audit evidence, wherein we say written evidence more reliable than oral evidence. Evidence obtained from independent sources from outside the entity, more reliable. Evidence which is directly obtained by auditor, more reliable. When controls in the organization are effective, then internal evidence is more reliable as compared to when the controls are not effective. And then original documents are more reliable than photocopies, facsimiles, etc. Right? So that is sufficient, appropriate audit evidence. Okay, right? And then this is what I talked about, WIDCO. The principles useful in assessing the reliability of the audit evidence. Right? So this is already marked as a trending question over here. Right? This entire notes in the PDF format has been provided in the chat box through a link of Google Drive. Right? So all this notes in PDF form you'll be able to revise from here. Right? So scope of audit, what is included, what is not included. Right? So it covers all aspects in relation to the financial statements being audited. And then financial information, reliability, sufficiency, and proper disclosure. What is not included? Areas which are outside the domain of his expertise. Like as an auditor, you're not an expert in the authentication of the document. Audit is not in the nature of an investigation. You don't have the power of search. You do not examine any person on the oath. Okay, right. So internal control system, right? Design, implementation, maintenance of the internal control system, right? Inherent limitations of an audit, that is FINNE, right? Financial reporting, investigation, nature of financial reporting, nature of audit procedures, and the future events and transaction, right? Future events and conditions. Okay, right. Then after that we have the EQCS, inherent limitations of an audit, right? Inherent limitations of an audit. Okay, right. Relationship of auditing with other disciplines, assurance and the non-assurance engagement, right? Historical financial information, either audit or review. Audit, reasonable assurance; review, limited assurance. Audit, we say true and fair; review, we say nothing has come to our attention that the financial statements are not a true and fair, right? Nothing has come to our attention. In an audit, we mainly have the 7 methods of obtaining audit evidence: CAIORR, right? That is your inspection, confirmation, analytical procedures, inquiry, observation, recalculation, and reperformance. Whereas in review, mainly the procedures followed are the inquiry and the analytical procedures, right? Inquiry and analytical procedures. Okay, right. Then prospective, it is related to the future, right? And then apart from the assurance engagement, you also have non-assurance engagement, which could also be called as related services. Related services में एक होता है agreed upon procedure, AUP, जिसका होता है report of factual finding, no assurance, और एक होता है compilation engagement, जिसमें आप help कर रहे हो management को अपनी accounting financial expertise apply करके to prepare the financial statements, right? In the preparation of the financial statements. Okay, right. Then elements of an assurance engagement, we said 3-party relationship, subject matter, suitable criteria, sufficient appropriate evidence, and the written assurance report. Okay, right. So that is regarding the elements of an assurance engagement, right? Then after that, next chapter के बारे में यहाँ introduction दिया है, जो है ethics and the terms of the engagement, right? Ethics and terms of engagement, right? So need for ethics, right? Then again it says ethics is a state of mind and moral principle. It is about the person's behavior, how they think intrinsically, right? The habit and temperament of an individual, right? Of a principle based approach, it says it's a exercise professional judgment based on knowledge and skill, and rule based approach is a very narrow outlook and rigid. Okay, फिर एक बड़ा ही important question है जो है fundamental principles of the professional accountant, है ना? तो अब हम बात करते हैं regarding the fundamental principles to be followed by a professional accountant, है ना? Fundamental principles, जिसको और क्या कहा जाता है कि what are the ethical requirements to be followed by a chartered accountant, है ना? जो डिस्कस किया गया है in chapter number 11. क्या है ये फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल? इंटेग्रिटी, है ना? जो है स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, ऑनेस्ट एंड सिंसियर, नॉट टू एसोसिएट विद फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स व्हिच आर मटीरियली misleading, or financial statements which omit or obscure the information, don't give the clear picture, राइट? फिर सेकंड फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल क्या है? ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, यानी कि कोई बायस नहीं होना चाहिए, कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट नहीं होना चाहिए, है ना? नो बायस, नो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ द इंटरेस्ट, नो अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ अदर्स, है ना? नो अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ अदर्स, राइट? तो उसे क्या बोलते हैं? ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, नो अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ द अदर्स, राइट? फिर इसके बाद आता है पीसीडीसी. पीसीडीसी क्या है? प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर, है ना? प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर. तो एक तो technically you have to be updated, right? So technically sharp and you do your work also carefully, right? तो क्या कहा गया है कि you have to attain and maintain the knowledge which is required by to be, yes, which a professional should have, and then you should also do your work with the skill, care and caution. तो बड़ा ही ध्यान से अपना काम करना है ना? वो है PCDC, प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर. नेक्स्ट फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल क्या है? कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी, जिसका मीनिंग क्या होता है? नॉट टू डिस्क्लोज द सीक्रेट्स ऑफ द क्लाइंट, है ना? अनलेस रिक्वायर्ड बाय लॉ और टेकन प्रायर परमिशन ऑफ द client, right, or taken the prior permission of the client. और last point क्या है, professional behavior, कि ऐसा कोई भी behavior नहीं होना चाहिए CA का जिससे profession की बदनामी होगी, which might bring the discredit to the profession. So refrain, avoid ऐसा कोई भी behavior जिसके कारण profession का discredit होगा, है ना, जिसके कारण इट माइट ब्रिंग द डिस्क्रेडिट टू द प्रोफेशन. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि जब फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स का एमसीक्यू में क्वेश्चन आता है कि सीए ने सीए ने इंफॉर्मेशन बता दिया, तो अब ये कौन सा फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल है. बहुत बार कंफ्यूजन होता है इंटेग्रिटी ऑब्जेक्टिविटी में भी, राइट. तो इसीलिए ये अगर हमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग है तो फिर ये कंफ्यूजन नहीं रहेगा, राइट. तो इंटेग्रिटी, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, पीसीडीसी जो है प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस एंड ड्यू केयर, कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी, और लास्ट है प्रोफेशनल बिहेवियर. ओके, राइट. फिर इसके बाद हम लोग और बोलते हैं कि एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट के साथ साथ आपको और कौन सी रिक्वायरमेंट कंप्लाई करना है, इंडिपेंडेंस की रिक्वायरमेंट. और इंडिपेंडेंस माने कि द जजमेंट ऑफ अ पर्सन इज नॉट सबऑर्डिनेट टू द विशेस और डायरेक्शंस ऑफ अनदर पर्सन हु एंगेज्ड हिम और हिज ओन सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. Independence of a person, and it says independence not only of the mind but also the independence of the appearance. मतलब क्या कि be and appear to be independent. और अगर चेक करना है कि क्या CA इंडिपेंडेंट है या नहीं, क्या CA इंडिपेंडेंट है या CA इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं है, तो इसीलिए हमें चेक करना है कि क्या CA के इंडिपेंडेंस को कोई खतरा है, क्या कुछ थ्रेट है टू द इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ द CA. यस, क्या क्या टाइप के थ्रेट्स हो सकते हैं, FSSAI, familiarity threat, self interest threat, self review threat, advocacy threat और intimidation threat. सबसे पहले क्या करना है, आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि क्या CA के इंडिपेंडेंस को कोई प्रकार का थ्रेट है. अगर है तो क्या इवैल्यूएट करना है कि क्या ये थ्रेट इज एट एन एक्सेप्टेबली लो लेवल, है ना, कि क्या ये विद इन द लिमिट्स है, इज इट एट एन एक्सेप्टेबली लो लेवल. अगर पता चले कि नहीं है, इट इज नॉट एट एन एक्सेप्टेबली लो लेवल, तो फिर क्या करना है, उसे एड्रेस करना है. उसे एड्रेस कैसे करना है, या तो उसको एलिमिनेट करना होगा उस थ्रेट को, या तो उसे रिड्यूस करना होगा बाय पुटिंग द एप्लीकेबल safeguards, या तो उसे रिड्यूस करना होगा बाय पुटिंग दी एप्लीकेबल सेफगार्ड्स. और तुम बोलते हो कि नहीं एलिमिनेट हो रहा है, नहीं रिड्यूस हो रहा है, तो अल्टीमेटली फिर क्या करना होगा, यू विल हैव टू विड्रॉ फ्रॉम द एंगेजमेंट, है ना. CA तुम्हें विड्रॉ करना होगा फ्रॉम द एंगेजमेंट, right. So that is regarding the independence and the threats to the independence. अच्छा, right. So ethical requirement, फिर उसके बाद independence के बारे में हमने बात की, right. फिर ऐसे 210 में एक डिस्कशन है जो कि है प्री कंडीशंस फॉर एन ऑडिट, है ना. क्या प्री कंडीशंस है ऑडिट के, वन, acceptability of the AFRF, के जो भी AFRF management is going to use for the preparation of financial statements, क्या वो ऑडिटर को acceptable है. और अगर acceptable है तो 5 और कंडीशन कि इस AFRF के हिसाब से फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स प्रिपेयर करना मैनेजमेंट तुम्हारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. इंटरनल कंट्रोल, जब ऑडिटर ऑडिट करने आएंगे तो टू गिव देम ऑल इंफॉर्मेशन, एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन, अनरिस्ट्रिक्टेड एक्सेस, ऑल दिस इज आल्सो द मैनेजमेंट रिस्पांसिबिलिटी, राइट. फिर व्हाट इज द प्रिंसिपल कंटेंट्स ऑफ द एंगेजमेंट लेटर, व्हाट आर द प्रिंसिपल कंटेंट्स, ऑब्जेक्टिव एंड स्कोप ऑफ ऑडिट, responsibilities of the auditor, responsibilities of the management, identification of the AFRF and the expected form and content of the report. Okay, right. फिर इसके बाद हम बोलते हैं recurring audit. As such, no need to send a new engagement letter for each period, but there are circumstances which warrant the auditor to issue a new engagement letter. What are those circumstances? 7. changes and one misunderstanding. What are the 7 changes? Change in management, change in ownership, change in nature and size of entity business, change in AFRF, change in law regulation, change in other reporting requirement, change in terms of engagement, or where there is any misunderstanding with the client as to the terms of the engagement. Okay.
मैसेज कर दीजिए कैमरा ही 10 seconds
Hello. Right, so that is our discussion regarding the SA210 जो है engagement letter के बारे में. Right, फिर उसके बाद अगर हम देखें SQC1 और SA220, right, SQC1 है quality control for firms, है ना, पूरे firm को ये standard applicable है, that perform audits and reviews of historical financial information and other assurance and related services engagement. और SA220 है क्वालिटी कंट्रोल फॉर एन ऑडिट ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं SQC1 के? कि जो फर्म है जिसे SQC1 कंप्लाई करना है, उस फर्म ने क्या ऐसा क्वालिटी कंट्रोल सिस्टम फर्म में होना चाहिए कि इट कंप्लाइज, द फर्म कंप्लाइज विद द प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स एंड द लीगल रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट. और जो भी फर्म के रिपोर्ट इशू किए गए हैं, द फर्म्स रिपोर्ट्स इशूड आर एप्रोप्रिएट इन दी सर्कमस्टेंसेस. तो जब भी SQC1 का कोई भी क्वेश्चन अगर आपको दिखे तो उसमें आप ये ऑब्जेक्टिव का मेंशन कर सकते हो, है ना, कि 1 द फर्म कंप्लाइज विद द PSLR, और दूसरा जो भी फर्म के रिपोर्ट इशूड है वो एप्रोप्रिएट है. जो SQC1 में बताया गया है एट द फर्म लेवल, वो सेम चीज बताई गई है SA220 में एट द ऑडिट लेवल. SA220 का ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? ऑडिट कंप्लाइज विद द PSLR, प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स एंड द लीगल रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट. और जो ऑडिट रिपोर्ट इशूड है वो क्या, वो एप्रोप्रिएट है इन द सर्कमस्टेंसेस. और क्या एलिमेंट्स है क्वालिटी कंट्रोल सिस्टम के? इट इज लीहेम. क्या होता है लीहेम? लीडरशिप रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर क्वालिटी विद इन द फर्म, एथिकल रिक्वायरमेंट्स इंक्लूडिंग इंडिपेंडेंस, एक्सेप्टेंस, कंटिन्यूएंस ऑफ क्लाइंट रिलेशन, human resources, engagement, performance, and monitoring. Right, so leadership responsibility, ethical requirements including independence, acceptance, continuance of the client relationship, human resources, engagement, performance, and monitoring. Right, so acceptance, continuance of client relationship में हमें क्या चेक करना होता है? Integrity of the client. फिर क्या तुम्हारे पास है? CCTR, competence, capability, time and resources to perform the engagement, and whether you can comply with the ethical requirements including the independence. Okay, राइट, इंटेग्रिटी ऑफ द क्लाइंट हमें देखना है कि क्या हमारे क्लाइंट मिस्टर मैक्रोनिल है. मैक्रोनिल क्या है? एम फॉर क्लाइंट इज इन्वॉल्व इन एनी मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग. व्हाट इज द एटीट्यूड ऑफ द क्लाइंट? whether the client is involved in any criminal activity. Then the reason for the non-appointment of the previous firm, non-reappointment, and your proposed appointment, and also the reputation. Right? Then after that, your increase in what you say, your knowledge regarding the integrity of the client will increase with your ongoing relationship with the client. Right? Then the nature of the client's operation. Then whether they are inappropriately limiting the scope of the work, and whether they are trying to reduce the audit fee as low as possible, and limiting the audit fee as low as possible. Right? So these are the elements of the quality control system. What are the elements of the quality control system? LEHIM. Right? Leadership responsibility, ethical requirements, acceptance, continuance of client relationship, human resources, engagement, performance, and last is the monitoring. Right? Last is the monitoring. Okay. राइट. फिर हम लोग चेक करते हैं द कंटेंट ऑफ द चैप्टर नंबर 8 जो है ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के बारे में, है ना. तो ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में हमें क्या डिस्कशन है यहाँ पे? एक तो SE 700 फॉर्मिंग एन ओपिनियन और फिर रिपोर्टिंग. और हम क्या बोलते हैं? फॉर्मिंग एन ओपिनियन इज एन आर्ट, है ना. तो आपको क्या देखना है कि वेदर दी फॉर्मिंग एन ओपिनियन इज एन आर्ट, कि whether accounting policies adequately disclosed, accounting policies consistent with AFRF, whether estimates are reasonable, information RRCU, material transaction event अलग से दिखाया, terminology बराबर, और fair presentation framework में structure, presentation, content, and also the transaction events achieve the fair presentation. Right? So that is forming an opinion. और फिर इसके बाद हम बात करते हैं regarding the कंटेंट्स ऑफ द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, है ना. क्या कंटेंट्स है ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के? अगर हम देखें SE 700 में क्या कंटेंट्स है ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के? स्टार्टिंग विद द टाइटल. क्या टाइटल है? इंडिपेंडेंट ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट. फिर एड्रेसी टू द मेंबर्स ऑफ ABC कंपनी लिमिटेड. राइट. फिर ओपिनियन. ओपिनियन में पहले इंट्रोडक्शन, है ना. वी हैव ऑडिटेड. राइट. सो समरी ऑफ सिग्निफिकेंट अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, टाइटल ऑफ ईच फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. राइट. देन द फैक्ट दैट द ऑडिट इज बीइंग कंडक्टेड, नेम ऑफ द एंटिटी एंड द डेट और पीरियड कवर्ड. And then the opinion that the financial statements give a true and fair view. Right? फिर opinion के बाद next है basis for opinion. Basis for opinion SRES. क्या है SRES? We have conducted our audit in accordance with the standards on auditing. Then reference to that section of the audit report where the responsibilities of the auditor are given. Then we comply with the ethical requirements including the independence, and we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate. है ना. तो टाइटल, एड्रेसी, ओपिनियन, बेसिस फॉर ओपिनियन. फिर इसके बाद गोइंग कंसर्न इफ एनी, है ना. इफ एनी हमेशा नहीं आएगा. फिर की ऑडिट मैटर इफ एनी, है ना. गोइंग कंसर्न इफ एनी, की ऑडिट मैटर इफ एनी. फिर मैनेजमेंट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. मैनेजमेंट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के बाद ऑडिटर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. ऑडिटर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के बाद अदर रिपोर्टिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, सेक्शन 143 सबसेक्शन 3, है ना. अदर रिपोर्टिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. और एंड में क्या आता है? सिग्नेचर, प्लेस एंड डेट, है ना. सिग्नेचर, प्लेस एंड दी डेट. ओके. तो ये टोटल कंटेंट्स है ऑफ द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, है ना. थोड़ा यहाँ हम बात कर लेते हैं गोइंग कंसर्न के बारे में. SA 570 जो है गोइंग कंसर्न, है ना. तो गोइंग कंसर्न के बारे में ऑडिटर को क्या चेक करना है? गोइंग कंसर्न. राइट. व्हाट इज गोइंग कंसर्न? इट इज अ फंडामेंटल अकाउंटिंग assumption used by the management in the preparation of the financial statements. Right. So as an auditor you have to check for the appropriateness of the going concern assumption used by the management in the preparation of financial statements, and whether any material uncertainty exists due to events or conditions which may cause a significant doubt regarding the going concern, entity's ability to continue as a going concern, right? Any such events or conditions which may cast a significant doubt regarding the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, right? These events and conditions are FOO. What is FOO? Financial indications, operating indications, and the other indications, right? And now talking about going concern and the ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, तो एक ऑडिटर का कंक्लूजन क्या हो सकता है कि गोइंग कंसर्न अजम्पशन यूज्ड इन द प्रिपरेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स गलत है, इनएप्रोप्रिएट है, राइट? तो इस केस में ऑडिटर क्या इशू करेंगे? एडवर्स ओपिनियन, राइट? सेकंड ऑडिटर का क्या कंक्लूजन हो सकता है कि गोइंग कंसर्न अजम्पशन इज ओके, एप्रोप्रिएट, बट क्या है? मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी है, बट क्या है? मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी रिगार्डिंग दी गोइंग कंसर्न। अब क्या करना है कि ये मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी का मैनेजमेंट ने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में एडिक्वेट डिस्क्लोजर दिया है या नहीं। तो अगर दिया है तो ऑडिटर फिर तुम्हें क्या करना है? अनमॉडिफाइड ओपिनियन विद MUGC, मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी रिलेटेड टू गोइंग कंसर्न पैरा। और अगर मैनेजमेंट ने एडिक्वेट डिस्क्लोजर नहीं दिया है, नो एडिक्वेट डिस्क्लोजर्स गिवन बाय द मैनेजमेंट इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, देन क्वालिफाइड ओपिनियन और द एडवर्स ओपिनियन। और मैनेजमेंट रेडी नहीं है ना, मटीरियल अनसर्टेनिटी है, हमने मैनेजमेंट को बोला आप थोड़ा देख लो, वो दे आर अनविलिंग, है ना? सो मैनेजमेंट अनविलिंगनेस टू डू द असेसमेंट ऑफ द गोइंग कंसर्न, तो फिर उस केस में क्या करना है? कंसिडर द इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑन द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, है ना? कंसिडर द इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑन द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, राइट? इट कुड लीड टू क्वालिफाइड और डिस्क्लेमर ऑफ ओपिनियन, है ना? तो बहुत सारा एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आता है रिगार्डिंग गोइंग कंसर्न एंड द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, है ना? गोइंग कंसर्न एंड द ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, ओके, राइट। फिर इसके बाद अगर हम देखें तो सेक्शन 143 सबसेक्शन 3 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 क्या रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट है? वहां पे है 10 पॉइंट्स, है ना? 10 पॉइंट्स के वेदर, right, the auditor has obtained all the information and explanation which to the best of his knowledge and belief were necessary, whether proper books of account as required by law have been kept, which branches have been audited by the branch auditor, their reports have been furnished to the company auditor, whether balance sheet, profit and loss account are in agreement with the books of account, financial statements comply with the accounting standards, any observations or comments having an adverse effect on the functioning of the company, whether any directors are disqualified under 164(2), any adverse remarks regarding the maintenance of the account, whether company has the adequate internal financial control and the operating effectiveness of such control, and such other matters as may be prescribed. And a pending litigation, material foreseeable losses, delay in transferring amount to investor education protection fund, then no funds have been advanced, no funds have been received, and the representation do not contain any misstatement. Dividend paid or declared, is it in compliance with section 123? And company accounting software has an audit trail feature, an audit trail feature which has operated throughout the year, not been tampered with, and it has been preserved as per the statutory requirements for the record retention, right? And it has been preserved as per the statutory requirements for the record retention, right? फिर CARO का applicability क्या है? CARO shall apply to every company including a foreign company, right, except bank is private limited company subject to certain conditions. One is subject to certain conditions: 1 crore, 1 crore, 10 crore, one person company, small company, insurance company, and the banking company, right? Insurance company and the banking company, right? And also you have the Section 8 company, right? So CARO shall apply to every company, including a foreign company, except private limited company, subject to certain condition, 1 CR, 1 CR, 10 CR, one person company, Section 8 company, small company, insurance company and banking company, CARO never applicable, right? CARO never applicable. And then what are the 21 clauses of reporting under the CARO? Right? Clause 1 जो है property, plant, equipment, intangible assets, है ना? Whether company is maintaining proper records, physical verification, title deeds of immovable property, फिर then whether revaluation has been done and any benami property, right? फिर उसके बाद है clause 2 which is inventory working capital, right? So inventory, has it been physically verified by the management and the procedures, are they appropriate, and also discrepancies of 10% or more. And working capital, where the company has been sanctioned at any point of time during the year, working capital excess of 5 crore on the basis of security of the current assets, whether the quarterly return statement submitted to bank financial institution, are they in agreement with the books of account. Okay, right? For clause 3, loans, investments, guarantee, security का details, है ना? Details of the transaction. Clause 4 फिर से LIGS, loans, investments, guarantee, security, compliance of section 185, 186, right? फिर clause 5 is public deposits, whether RBI directives, whether the section 73 to section 76, any rules framed there under, have they been complied? If not, what is the contravention and any order passed? Okay, if maintenance of cost records is prescribed by the central government under section 148(1), whether such cost records have been made and maintained. For clause 7, statutory dues, undisputed regularity of payment more than 6 months, and disputed amount involved and the forum where the dispute is pending. For clause 8, जो कि important है कि undisclosed income, है ना? Transactions which are not recorded in the books of account have been surrendered or disclosed as income during the tax assessments under the income tax law, whether the previously unrecorded income has it now been properly recorded in the books of account. Right? 9, repayment of loans and other borrowing. Right? So company has made any default in the repayment of loan borrowing. Company has been declared to be a willful defaulter. Whether funds raised on short-term basis, have they been used for the long-term purposes? Term loans, have they been applied for the purpose for which they have been obtained? Right? Whether the company has pledged any shares, any advance has been given, right, for the subsidiaries or so. Right? Then clause 10, issue proceeds. And IPO, FPO, preferential allotment, private placement, again whether it is in compliance with Company Act and used for the purpose for which it has been raised. 11, fraud, है ना? Any fraud on or by the company noticed or reported during the year. If yes, the nature and amount involved is to be indicated. Any fraud reporting to central government and any whistleblower complaints. Right? 12, Nidhi company, है ना? Yes, Nidhi company net owned funds to deposits in the ratio of 1:20, right? Then at least 10% in the unencumbered term deposits and any default in the repayment of deposits by the Nidhi company. Related party, whether transactions with related parties are in compliance with section 185 and 186, and also the details, have they been disclosed in accordance with the accounting standards, right? So yeah, transactions with related parties, are they in compliance with the provisions of section 177 and 188? Sorry, not 185, 186. It is 177 and 188, and the details have been disclosed as per the accounting standards. 14, internal audit system, internal audit report. 15, non-cash transactions entered into, are they in compliance with section 192? Right? 16, registration with the RBI, whether company is required to be registered, and the NBFCs. 17, cash losses incurred in the financial year and in the immediately preceding financial year, right? Then 18, which is regarding the resignation, right? So where there has been any resignation of the auditors during the year, whether the incoming auditor has taken into consideration the issues, objections and concerns raised by the outgoing auditor, right? 19, material uncertainty, okay, based on the financial ratios, the aging and expected date of realization of financial assets and liability, auditor's knowledge of the board of directors, management plan, whether auditor is of the opinion that no material uncertainty exists, that the company is capable of meeting its liabilities as and when they exist within a period of 1 year from the balance sheet date, right? 20, corporate social responsibility, and 21 is regarding the consolidated financial statements, right? It is regarding the consolidated financial statements. Okay, right, so yeah. Okay, right, so consolidated financial statements, right? So that's a quick revision of the 21 clauses of the CARO 2020. Okay, and now, let us come to the discussion of a few chapters. Like, first let me pick up the chapter number 9 and we'll try to do the revision of the audits of the different types of the entities. Okay, right, so different types of entities, wherein we have these 14 different types of the entity, and then we have the bank audit in chapter number 10, right? So first we have the sole trader, then the audit of the firm LLP, right? So partnership firm, we have to study, we have all these points, matters to be considered before starting the audit, advantages of audit while doing the audit of a partnership firm, and for LLP, basics, books of account, audit of accounts, advantage, need, purpose, returns to be filed, right? The annual return and the statement of accounts and solvency, appointment of the auditor and the auditor's duty regarding the audit of the LLP, right? Then what are the books of account to be maintained by the different institution, right? So what are the returns and statements to be filed by LLP? Annual return, form 11, right? So we say annual, NN, so it's 1 and statement of account and solvency, right? So reverse S, that is form 8. Form 8, right? So annual return and the statement of accounts and solvency, important from the MCQ viewpoint, right? Then small LLP, no need to get their financial statements audited. How is small LLP defined? As capital contribution in the range of 25 lakh to 5 crore, or the turnover in the range of 40 lakh to 50 crore, right? 40 lakh to the 50 crore. Okay, right? So no audit required for contribution less than 25 lakh, less than 40 lakh. And what is the definition of a small LLP? 25 to 5 crore, 25 lakh to 5 crore, and 40 lakh to 50 crore. And no audit required if the contribution does not exceed 25 lakh or turnover does not exceed 40 lakh. Okay, right? Then we talk about the cooperative society. Right, cooperative society, what are the features of the cooperative society? Then the audit features of cooperative society, and also the provisions of the multi-state cooperative society, right? The multi-state cooperative society, right? What is the restriction on shareholding? 20% of the total number of shares, or shares of the value of rupees 1000, whichever is less. Contribution for charitable purposes should not exceed 10% of the net profits. Education fund, depending on the class awarded to the society, and it's a charge and not an appropriation of the profit, right? Who can be appointed as an auditor of the cooperative society? Chartered accountant, or a government diploma in cooperative accounts, or a person who served as an auditor in the cooperative department of the government. That is why we say any of the above. Any of the above. Okay, right? Then what are the investments that can be done by a cooperative society, right? Very important question over there. The special report to the registrar. What are the points in the special report to the registrar? Personal profiteering by the members of the managing committee, right? Then detection, what's personal profiteering by the members of the managing committee? Then the specific cases of the mismanagement. Then decisions against the rules and bylaws of the cooperative society, and in case of urban cooperative banks, it says the disproportionate advances given to the vested interest group. Right, so special report to the registrar, again a very important question for you to study. Right, the special report to the registrar of the cooperative society. Right, then inquiry inspection of the multi-state cooperative society, and then we have the discussion regarding the government audit. Government audit, very favorite question of ICAI, is the audit of the government expenditure. And what are the points in the audit of government expenditure? RSPPP. Right, so RSPPP, it says the audit of the rules and orders, right, the audit of the sanctions, audit against the provision of funds, propriety audit, no unnecessary extravagant expenditure, and then the performance audit. Right, so one, the expenditure is incurred in accordance with the rules, regulations, orders issued by a competent authority. Then each expenditure is covered either by a general or a special sanction. Then there is proper appropriation of the funds against which the expenditure is made. Right, then no unnecessary expenditure. Here for propriety audit, we also have the principles of financial propriety. And okay, expenditure should not be prima facie more than what the occasion demands. Then no authority should exercise power to its own advantage. Public money should not be utilized for the benefit of a particular person or section. The allowances given to the government employee should not be a source of profit unless it is told by the court or the amount involved is insignificant or so. Right, so principles or the norms or standards of financial propriety. And performance audit, we have EEE, efficiency, economy, and the effectiveness. Okay. Right, then the government receipts, financial committees, definition of the government audit, duties of CNAG, right, so to compile and submit accounts and so, and then we also have the discussion regarding the powers of the CNAG, right, to appoint the auditor, to conduct supplementary audit, and also to conduct the test audit of the accounts of the government company, right, test audit of the accounts, right, so RSPPP. What is RSPPP? Audit of rules and orders, audit of sanctions, audit against provision of funds, propriety audit, and the performance audit. And then these are the P points, right? The principles of financial propriety. Zarurat se zyada, no expenditure. No authority should exercise power for own advantage. Public money not for the benefit of a particular person or community. Allowances should not be a source of profit to the recipients. Right? So principles of financial propriety. And then you have performance audit, EEE. Efficiency, economy, and the effectiveness audit, right? Then stores and inventory and the others. Okay, right? फिर इसके बाद है audit of the local bodies. हम कौन से चैप्टर में हैं? We are in the chapter number 9, which is audit of the different types of the entity. है ना? तो background, फिर financial administration, salient features, बहुत ही important question, objectives of audit of local body, right? फिर audit program for the audit of the local body. तो क्या objectives है local body के audit के? Reporting, detecting, preventing. Reporting on fairness of the presentation of financial statements, reporting on the strengths and weaknesses of the system of the financial control, reporting on whether it follows the legal administrative requirement, whether value is being fully received on the money spent, and detection, prevention of fraud, error, and misuse of resources. Right, so this is objectives of audit of the local body, है ना? Objectives of the audit of the local body. फिर इसके बाद है audit of the trust and society. Trust and society relatively नया ऐड किया है. NGO charitable हमेशा से था, है ना? तो NGO के ये सारे questions. फिर charitable institution और फिर trust and society, legal form, books of account, financial statements, auditor's responsibility, working paper, और फिर ऑडिट ऑफ ट्रस्ट और ऑडिट ऑफ सोसाइटी, है ना? तो कोई भी अगर डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ एंटिटी के ऑडिट के बारे में क्वेश्चन आता है और आपको अपने मन से आंसर क्रिएट करना होगा, तो ये गाइडलाइंस यूज करके हम आंसर प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं, है ना? तो एक तो वो जो भी इंस्टीट्यूशन जिसका ऑडिट करना है उसके बारे में कुछ प्रिलिमिनरी लिखना है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, लीगल फॉर्म, फिर उस पर्टिकुलर इंस्टीट्यूशन के इनकम एक्सपेंडिचर के ऑडिट के बारे में मेंशन करना है, फिर उनके कैपिटल एसेट लाइबिलिटी का ऑडिट, और फिर अगर उस इंस्टीट्यूशन के रिलेटेड कोई स्पेशल पॉइंट्स हैं। ओके तो जैसे कि प्रिलिमिनरी में क्या क्या लिखा जा सकता है कि क्या लीगल फॉर्म है, इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम, अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम, लिस्ट ऑफ बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट एंड अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, मिनट्स ऑफ द मीटिंग्स ऑफ द मैनेजिंग कमिटी। फिर आता है द रिसीट, द इनकम ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर इंस्टीट्यूशन, तो जो भी उनका मेन सोर्स ऑफ इनकम है उस इनकम का 3-वे चेक, कि जैसे स्टूडेंट रजिस्टर विद द एंट्रीज इन द कैश बुक विद द कॉपीज ऑफ द रिसीट्स इशूड टू द स्टूडेंट, राइट। अगर कोई डिस्काउंट दिया है तो प्रॉपर ऑथराइजेशन, डोनेशन, कॉपीज ऑफ रिसीट्स इशूड टू द डोनर, ऑल्सो वेदर द डोनेशन हैव बीन यूज्ड फॉर द पर्पस फॉर विच इट हैज बीन ऑब्टेन्ड, ग्रांट द कॉपीज ऑफ द ग्रांट मेमो, अगेन पर्पस, इन्वेस्टमेंट इनकम, यू कैन चेक द इंटरेस्ट डिविडेंड, द कंप्यूटेशन फ्रॉम द इन्वेस्टमेंट शेड्यूल, है ना। तो बहुत सारी ये जो एनजीओ चैरिटेबल इंस्टीट्यूशन है इन्हें टैक्स नहीं पे करना होता है, बट इन्हें जब बैंक के एफडी का इंटरेस्ट मिलता है उस पे टीडीएस डिडक्ट होके आता है, तो वो टीडीएस का उन्हें रिफंड क्लेम करना है। तो ये एक बड़ा ही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है कि चेक वेदर द रिफंड ऑफ टीडीएस इनकम हैज बीन क्लेम्ड एंड रिकवर्ड, एज जनरली दीज इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर exempt from the payment of the taxes, as generally these institutions are exempt from the payment of the taxes, right। फिर एक्सपेंडिचर के बारे में हम लिख सकते हैं कि क्या एक्सपेंडिचर ऑथराइज्ड है, या सारे एक्सपेंडिचर के लिए कोई बजटरी कंट्रोल है, और इसके अलावा द इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम, राइट, इसके अलावा the internal control system। ओके राइट, फिर कैपिटल एसेट्स एंड लाइबिलिटीज, और अगर कोई स्पेशल पॉइंट है तो वो, है ना, राइट। तो ये सारे डिफरेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस है। फिर एनजीओ, है ना। अब एनजीओ के लीगल फॉर्म क्या हो सकते हैं, या तो वो सोसाइटी होगी तो इट विल बी रजिस्टर्ड अंडर द सोसाइटी रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट, अगर ट्रस्ट है तो रजिस्टर्ड अंडर द इंडियन ट्रस्ट एक्ट, अगर कंपनी है तो रजिस्टर्ड एज सेक्शन 8 कंपनी अंडर कंपनीज एक्ट, चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट है तो पब्लिक ट्रस्ट एक्ट, एंड इट कुड ऑल्सो बी रजिस्टर्ड अंडर इनकम टैक्स एक्ट और द FCRA, है ना। फिर ये पर्टिकुलर एनजीओ, है ना, सो इट कुड बी सोसाइटी, ट्रस्ट और कंपनी। फिर व्हाट आर द सोर्सेज ऑफ फंड फॉर द एनजीओ, ग्रांट्स एंड डोनेशन, फंड रेजिंग प्रोग्राम, एडवर्टाइजमेंट, फी फ्रॉम मेंबर, टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस फी, सब्सक्रिप्शन, गिफ्ट एंड सेल ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स और पब्लिकेशन, right, so that is the sources of the fund। फिर also क्या होता है, the application of the funds, right, the application of the funds of the NGO, right। फिर इसके audit of NGO के बाद क्या है, audit of trust and society, है ना, कि क्या legal form है, books of account, financial statements, क्या auditor की क्या responsibility है ना। तो again ये important chart है। अगर आप audit of societies को देखो, जिसकी संभावना है एग्जाम में आने की, नहीं आया तो नहीं आया, बट संभावना तो है ना। तो एक तो सोसाइटी है तो सोसाइटी रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट, है ना, अगर FCRA का रूल्स, राइट, देन इनकम टैक्स का एग्जेम्पशन, फिर इसके अलावा इंटरनल कंट्रोल एंड अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, राइट, देन यू वांट टू चेक द एक्सपेंस रीइंबर्समेंट एंड इंक्वायरी डन बाय द रजिस्ट्रार, एनी इम्प्रॉपर एक्सपेंडिचर और एनी ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट। एंड सोसाइटी है तो ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ द सोसाइटी यू कैन चेक फ्रॉम द मेमोरेंडम और द बायलॉज ऑफ द सोसाइटी, है ना। तो ये क्वेश्चन अगेन प्लीज इसे 3 बार पढ़ के जाना रिगार्डिंग द ऑडिट ऑफ द सोसाइटीज, राइट। एंड ऑडिट ऑफ ट्रस्ट में हमें देखना है अकाउंट्स ऑफ द ट्रस्ट, राइट, फिर अकाउंट्स में रिसीट्स एंड डिसबर्समेंट, राइट, फिर उसके बाद कैश एंड बैंक बैलेंसेस, वाउचर्स एंड ऑल बुक्स एंड डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैव बीन प्रोड्यूस्ड बिफोर द ऑडिटर, देन मैनेजर ट्रस्टी ऑफ द ट्रस्ट रिक्वायर्ड टू गिव द इंफॉर्मेशन, बैलेंस व्हिच इज आउटस्टैंडिंग फॉर मोर देन 1 year, so this is an MCQ, is required to be written off, improper expenditure or any breach of trust, right, then minimum and maximum number of trustees, then the investments of the trust, debtor creditor of the trust, any anonymous donation, cash donations, irregularities in the previous year, and any special matter is to be brought to the attention of the deputy or the assistant charity commissioner. So again MCQ, right, to whose attention these matters are to be brought to, the deputy or the assistant charity commissioner, ओके राइट। फिर है ऑडिट ऑफ द हायर परचेज एंड द लीजिंग फाइनेंस कंपनी, राइट। सो हायर परचेज एंड देन यू आल्सो हैव द लीजिंग फाइनेंस कंपनी, राइट। तो ऑब्जेक्ट क्लॉज ऑफ द लीजिंग कंपनी यानी कि मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन, है ना। फिर क्रेडिट एनालिसिस बिफोर दे अग्री विद द लीज प्रपोजल, देन द लीज अग्रीमेंट, लीज प्रपोजल फॉर्म। फिर एसेट लीज को देना एसेट लीज पे देना है तो पहले उसे खरीदना होगा, इनवॉइस। फिर एक्सेप्टेंस लेटर ऑफ द एसेट बाय द लेसी, बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन एंड द कॉपी ऑफ द इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी, है ना, कॉपी ऑफ द इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसीज, ओके राइट। फिर इसके बाद है ऑडिट ऑफ द होटल, होटल है तो गेस्ट रजिस्टर, रूम सेल्स, रिनोवेशन, रीडेकोरेशन एक्सपेंसेस, एनी कैजुअल लेबर, है ना। सो बिकॉज दे ऑपरेट टू अ ग्रेट एक्सटेंट ऑन द कैजुअल लेबर, राइट। देन द pilfering is a big problem in the hotel industry. Also for their inventory they have the professional valuers, right. फिर pilfering के लिए you need to check the inventory internal control, weekly trading account, right, and also the taxes paid, okay, right. Then hotels, then the kitchen order ticket, right, then the occupancy in progress, then travel agent commission paid, then the expenses properly authorized, any luxury tax, and the quasi fixed assets like silver cutlery items, right. So that is the audit of the hotel. तो internal control अलग से question आता है कि pilfering is a big problem. तो pilfering का क्या solution है? Weekly trading account, few restaurant bills, then taxes collected and the gross margin. Right? Taxes collected and the gross margin, then the room sales, then after that also the inventories of the hotel. Right, audit of the cinema hall, then we have the audit of the club, right. So receipts of the club, and then we have the other points, then the audit of the hospital educational institution. So again first the general, trust deed, regulations, minutes of the meeting, fees, other income, then expenditure, assets and liabilities, and then the compliance, okay right. So again for the income we are talking about the three-way check, है ना, स्टूडेंट फी रजिस्टर, कैश बुक एंड द कॉपीज ऑफ द रिसीट्स इशूड, राइट, द कॉपीज ऑफ द रिसीट्स इशूड, राइट. सो दैट्स जस्ट अ ब्रीफ रिविजन ऑफ द चैप्टर ऑफ द ऑडिट ऑफ द different types of the entities, right, the different types of the entities, okay right. Let us do a short and sweet, a very crisp chapter over there which is regarding the audit documentation, right, the audit documentation, right. So what is the definition of audit documentation? Yes everyone, यस क्या डेफिनेशन है SE 230 ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन का? कि वो रिकॉर्ड है किस चीज का? प्रोसीजर जो परफॉर्म किए हैं, एविडेंस जो ऑब्टेन किया है और जो कंक्लूजन्स रीच किए हैं, है ना. प्रोसीजर परफॉर्म, एविडेंस ऑब्टेन्ड एंड कंक्लूजन्स रीच, राइट. फिर क्या कहा गया है कि ये जो ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, कि व्हाट इज द नेचर एंड पर्पस ऑफ ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, राइट. सो इट इज एविडेंस बेसिस फॉर कंक्लूजन about the achievement of the overall objective, and audit has been done as per standards and legal regulatory requirement. ये दो मेन पर्पस है. और एडिशनल क्या है कि वो हेल्प करता है एंगेजमेंट टीम को टू प्लान परफॉर्म द ऑडिट, DSR, राइट. देन फ्यूचर ऑडिट्स ऑल्सो enables engagement team to be accountable for work done, quality control reviews and inspections, and also the external inspection. Right, so that is the additional purposes. Then we have the form, content and extent, and factors affecting the form, content and extent. है ना. तो what are the factors which will affect the number of your working paper? So again it depends upon the procedure performed, evidence obtained, conclusions reached. Then it depends upon the size and complexity of the entity, the methodology and the tools used, and the RMM identified and the exceptions identified, right. Then what does it say? Documentation of significant matters, big matters, significant professional judgment, that is your big decision, and matters arising after the date of the report. Okay, what were the circumstances, what were the new or additional procedures, evidence and conclusion, and who did the change and who reviewed the changes, right. Who did the change and who reviewed the changes. Towards the end of the audit, auditor prepares the document called as the audit completion memorandum, right? It is a summary of all the significant matters, how they were addressed, and that includes the cross references. What is the advantage? Efficient, effective reviews, and any essay not followed, mention it in the ACM. Right, this is a very powerful sentence. Okay, audit documentation done after the work is performed is less accurate than documentation which is done at the time when the work is being performed. Again, a favorite area for ICAI question is regarding the assembly of the final audit file, not more than 60 days after the date of the audit report. It is an administrative process, not to perform any new procedure, not to reach any new conclusion, no new evidence, right? But can you delete, discard the superseded documentation? Yes. Can you do the cross-referencing, signing off of the completed checklist? Yes. Right? Such administrative work can be done, but you cannot perform any new procedure, you cannot reach any new conclusion, right? You cannot perform any new procedure, you cannot reach any new conclusion. Okay, right, so that is just a brief revision of the SA 230 in the chapter number 6, right? The SA 230 in the chapter number 6 over there. Okay, right. Then after that we have a look at 299. You know what is 299? It is regarding the joint audit of the financial statements. And so for joint audit, क्या required होता है? Joint audit plan. है ना, जॉइंट ऑडिट प्लान क्या बताया गया है कि व्हाट आर द factors to be considered in the development of the joint audit plan. One, the joint auditors will by mutual discussion decide upon the division of audit areas and the common audit areas, right? Then you have to consider the reporting objectives, right? Then after the reporting objectives, the results of the preliminary engagement activities, right? After the results of preliminary engagement activities, it says which professional judgment, okay, which areas are significant in directing the engagement team efforts, and then the nature, timing, and the extent of the resources required to perform the engagement, right? Nature, timing, and extent of the resources, right? So what is that? That is regarding the joint audit plan, right? That is the joint audit plan. Okay, and then what are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible? Again, one of the favorite questions of the ICAI from SA 299. Then okay, what are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible? Right, so one for work which is not divided. Then matter relating to all brought to their attention by anyone. Then deciding upon the nature, timing, and extent of the audit procedures for the common audit areas. Right? Then whether the financial statements comply with the statute, whether presentation and disclosure of financial statements is as per the AFRF, and whether the audit report complies with the statute, and also does it comply with the pronouncements of the ICAI. Right? These are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. What are the areas? One, for work which is not divided. Then matter relating to all brought to their attention by anyone, right? Then the common audit areas, deciding on the audit procedure. Financial statements comply with the statute, presentation, disclosure as per AFRF, and audit report is in compliance with the statute and the pronouncements of the ICAI, right? So those are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Okay, right, one more chapter, just let us have a quick revision over there. Chapter number 2, which is regarding the audit strategy, audit planning, and the audit program, right? So as I mentioned initially, right, what I have told you, okay, in the Google Drive, on the chat box of this particular of this particular video, also the PDF of the Google Drive link of this PDF has been provided, right? So you can just go through that particular Google Drive link and download the PDF, and and you will get to do a quick revision of all the chapters over there, right? You will get to do a quick revision of all the chapters. Also on the Aarti Lahoti Telegram channel, I think hundreds of MCQs relevant for inter audit have been uploaded by the team. And so you can just, solve those MCQs, which can also be a good booster, right, for your exam preparation. Okay, right. So now talking about SA 300, which is regarding the planning and audit of the financial statements. And probably, I am having this video, so that, I'm waiting to see you all in CA final. I think as simply as I can put it. You say, ma'am, what you are waiting? Even we, everybody on the planet is waiting for that to happen. Okay, right? So yes, we are waiting for your efforts to get the fruitful results over there, right? So audit SA 300, which is regarding the planning and audit of the financial statements, right? So what do we say? Auditor, you establish the audit strategy and then you develop the audit plan, right? So we say the auditor shall establish the overall audit strategy, which sets the scope, timing and direction of the audit, and a scope, timing and direction of the audit. Obviously, audit strategy, audit plan, all of that is the responsibility of the auditor, right? Engagement partner, other team members should also be involved, right? You can discuss elements of planning with the entity management, but it says in order to facilitate the conduct of the audit, but not to compromise on the effectiveness of the audit, right? I just discussed with you the joint audit plan and areas where joint auditors are jointly, severally responsible, right? Then elements of planning, preliminary engagement activity, planning activity. You have established audit strategy, establish the audit strategy and develop the audit plan. How do you establish the audit strategy? What are the factors? Scope. S for scope. R for reporting objectives. A for activities, results of preliminary engagement activity. R for resources, nature, timing and extent of the resources. And E for effort. Okay, professional judgment as to which areas are significant in directing the engagement team effort. Then what are the factors to be considered in the development of the audit plan? A realm of factors, right? So risk assessment procedures, then the involvement of the experts, then after that the analytical procedures, right? Then the legal regulatory framework and how the entity is complying with that framework, and also the materiality, right? So that is the factors to be considered in the development of the audit plan, right? So changes to planning decision, unexpected events, changes in condition, any new information based on the audit procedures performed or so, or inconsistency in the evidence based on the evidence obtained, right? Factors to be considered in the nature, timing and extent of DSR is SARC, right? So that it depends upon the size of the entity, right? Then also size and characteristics and so, right? Then the documentation and then the audit program, right? So audit program, again we have the evolving one audit program, not possible. Assistant encouraged to keep an open mind. There has to be the periodic review of the audit program. Then developing an audit program, important question, right? Audit program designed to provide the audit evidence, and then advantages and the disadvantages of the audit program, right? So first you establish the strategy, then you develop the plan. An audit plan is more detailed than the audit strategy, right? So we studied the factors. For audit strategy, the factors are S rare, and for audit plan, the factors are REALM, right? REALM. Right? Then the advantages of the audit strategy, advantages of the audit planning, right? Advantages. Then the factors to be considered, S rare, right? Then the audit plan, realm of factors to be considered, right? Realm of factors to be considered, okay, right? Then the preliminary work, okay, whether you can comply with the ethical requirement, then whether the management agrees with the precondition, then continuance, acceptance, and NOC and the QOC for initial audit engagement, right? For initial audit engagement. Right, so first you establish the audit strategy, then you develop the audit plan. Right, so it's the broader outline. This is the detailed procedure. It gives you the scope, timing, and direction of the audit. Okay, right, then what does it say? When do you make changes to the audit strategy, audit plan, right? And what are the factors affecting the nature, timing, and extent of DSR, size and complexity, area of audit, RMM, and the competence and capability of the individual performing the work, right? Then after audit strategy, audit plan, we have the discussion regarding the audit program, right? So what is to be done, by whom is it to be done, and by when is it to be done, right? So it's a series of verification procedures to be applied to every item of the financial statement to obtain evidence in order to express an opinion. Right, so audit program, which serves the purpose of the instruction, right? And then we have constructing the audit program, developing the audit program. So one, it says stay within the scope and limitation of the assignment. Then what does it say? Written audit program should be there. Evidence to be obtained should be reasonably available and best evidence possible. Then apply only those steps and procedures which are necessary. It is like a set of instruction. Consider all possibilities of error and coordinate the procedures to be applied to the related items. Right? So constructing, developing the audit program. Right? Constructing, developing the audit program. Okay, so that is our discussion on the chapter number 2, right? And we've also covered the chapter number 6, right? So on priority, you should first study these 2 chapters to begin with: audit planning, audit strategy, audit program, audit documentation. Then you could also do chapter number 11, which is regarding the ethics and terms of engagement, right? Then after that, come to chapter 5, which is regarding the audit evidence, right? Then do the different types of entity, also study the items of financial statement and a brief overview of the bank audit, and then study the other chapters, right? So some strategy like that is what you can follow for the studies. Okay, right? So maybe the last one which we can discuss for now is the dangerous one, right? The items of the financial statement, right? So items of the financial statement, we have the 17 items of the financial statement. Okay, right? So 11 items of the balance sheet and 6 items of the profit and loss account. And then for each item, there could be some special points, and the schedule 3 disclosures are to be discussed, right? So we have share capital, other equity, reserves and surplus, borrowing, right? Tangible, intangible assets, inventory, cash and cash equivalents, debtor, creditor, loans and advances, other current assets, and the provisions and contingent liability. Right, I'm telling you, the Google Drive link for this entire chart is given to you, right, in the chat box. Okay, right, for profit and loss account, we have sale of products and services, then the other income, then depreciation, amortization, employee benefit expenses, and then the purchases and the other expenses. Right? So these are the 17. You say, ma'am, 1.5 days before the exam, I've realized that this is the summary of that chapter. Otherwise, I just keep on, moving the pages over there. Right, so these are the items of the balance sheet and the items of the profit and loss account. Right, so balance sheet, when you have to check the share capital, its existence, completeness and valuation. For each and every item, we have the schedule 3 disclosure. Right, for each and every item, we also have the schedule 3 disclosure. Like, one of the favorite question is sweat equity share. Right, so it says the pari passu with the other shares, other shareholders. Then special resolution, details of the special resolution, listed entity, SEBI regulations. Others, they need to follow the rules, and again the provisions of the Companies Act. Then reduction of share capital, special resolution, tribunal order, no default in repayment of deposits, register of members, registrar certificate, right? Memorandum of association, the altered share certificate, right? Then the articles of association, the court may order to use the word and reduced, and again the accounting entries and the revaluation of assets to be verified, right? The revaluation of the assets to be verified, right? Then we have the reserve and surplus and the other equity, right? Also on the YouTube channel, lot of MTP, RTP, MCQ discussion have been done, right? So even that particular discussion you can go through, right? So even that particular discussion you can go through this. Yes, Jan 25, we've prepared a special link over there. Okay, the playlist has been prepared for the same, right? For fixed assets completeness, right? You have to check the schedule, opening balance, add less, and the closing. Opening balance, you can check it from the previous year. Closing balance from the general ledger. Addition, you have to obtain a list. Then criteria for recognition of an asset as a PPE, has it been fulfilled? Then cost recognition has been done as per the AS. Then spare parts standby for more than 1 year, it should be considered as PPE. Service cost not to be included in PPE. Then for any asset purchase, there has to be proper documentation and the authorization. And before purchase of any asset, there has to be a process for calling the quotation, and auditor should verify the supporting documents. Right? For deletion, what is the reason? The approval. Right? The process followed for deletion and proper recording of the gain or loss on the disposal of the asset. Right? Gain or loss on the disposal of the asset. Okay. Right? So that is where we talk about the the tangible and intangible asset. Then certain expenses which are actually revenue, but sometimes they are capitalized, like installation costs, borrowing costs, wages paid on installation, registration charges, lawyer fees, freight expenses of PPE. They are essentially basically of a revenue nature, but sometimes they are capitalized. Okay, right? Then what is the intangible asset? It says it is an identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. An identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance, held for use either in the production or supply of goods or services, or for rental to others, or for the administrative purposes. Right? Rental to others or for the administrative purposes. Right? So we have the audit procedures for the tangible, intangible, then the inventories. Right? Then the inventories, again the valuation of the raw material, valuation of the work in progress, and valuation of the finished goods. Right? So raw material, work in progress, and the finished goods. Right? So today, before ending your day, or you say, ma'am, it's going to be the whole night awake, right? You can just download this particular PDF and go through all the points regarding each of the item of the financial statement mentioned over there. Okay, right. Then after the inventories, we have cash and bank balance, debtor, creditor, loans and advances, right? Debtor, creditor, and the loans and advances. And then after that, the provisions and the contingent liability, right? The provisions and the contingent liability. And then we have the income statement, in which we have the sale, purchase, other income, other expense, depreciation, amortization, and the employee benefit expense, right? And the employee benefit expense, right? So for the understanding of these transactions, you have to understand the internal control, segregation of duties, the test of control. Then generally, what are the common controls? Then again, check a random number of the transactions. Substantive procedures is a must. And again, you need to check the sales price and the discount policy, right? Sales price and the discount policy, right? Then we have the audit procedures for the sale, and the occurrence, completeness, and the measurement, right? Overstatement of revenue, we need to discuss it separately. Okay, no single sales invoice is recorded twice. Cancelled sales invoice should not be recorded. Few sales invoice, you compare it with the sales journal, right? Then genuineness of sale, that it should not be the fictitious sale, and you have to check that the transactions are properly recorded. Then shipment should not be done without the consent of the customer. Then unearned revenue should not be recorded as earned. Then if there is substantial uncertainty regarding the collectability, revenue should not be recognized. And customer obligations, if they are contingent, again the revenue should not be recognized, right? So that's the question regarding the overstatement of the revenue. And then we have a question regarding the under overstatement of the purchases, right? The under overstatement of the purchases. And then for the purchases, we have one question regarding the analytical procedure, right? So what is the analytical procedure for purchases? Again, 2 to 3 times asked in your exam. It is regarding the consumption analysis, stock composition analysis, then the ratio analysis, and the quantitative reconciliation. Consumption, raw material consumed, right? Then stock composition, raw material as a percentage of total stock. Ratio, stock turnover, debtor turnover, creditor turnover. And quantitative reconciliation, opening, add less, closing. Opening, add less, and the closing. All of this you have to compare with the previous year, and reasons for material variances are to be asked for, are to be inquired into, right? So that's analytical procedures for the purchases, right? The analytical procedure, right? Then we have the employee benefit expense, depreciation, amortization expense, then the other income and the other expense. What is the other income? Interest income, dividend income, gain or loss of sale of investment in mutual fund. Then for each of this type of other income, we have the recognition criteria. Okay, interest income, time proportion basis. Dividend income, when the right to receive the payment of dividend is established, it is probable that the money will flow and the amount can be measured reliably. And gain or loss, differential between redemption price and carrying value. And then what are the audit procedure? List of FD, right? Then also the rate of interest, number of days it is outstanding, arithmetical accuracy, that is the calculation, and again confirmation of the amount, right? And again you can obtain a copy of the form 26AS. Right? Dividend income, right to receive payment, and for mutual fund income, the mutual fund statement and verify the books of account. Right? So you have the interest income, dividend income, and the gain or loss on sale of investments in the mutual fund. Then we have the other expenses. So for other expenses, we have a question. Okay, what are the attributes? What are the attributes while verifying the other expenses? So number one attribute, it should be business expenditure and not personal expenditure. It should be related to the current period. It should be properly classified as a proper distinction between revenue and capital expenditure. It should be recorded under the correct expense head. There should be supporting documentation and the proper authorization. Right, so again a question asked in your exam, what are the attributes while verifying the other expenses? Right, what are the attributes while verifying the other expenses? And then you have the rent expense, power and fuel, insurance expense, and the legal and professional expenses. Right, the legal and professional expenses. And then there are also a lot of discussion regarding the Schedule 3 disclosures and so. Right, Schedule 3 disclosures and so. Okay, in your paper, what you should solve first, according to me, you should always attempt the MCQ first. Right, always remember that 3 average answers will give you more marks than 2 best answers. Right, will give you more marks than the 2 best answers. Right, yes, catch good speed momentum in writing your answers right from the beginning. Right, don't go for a lopsided, give you answers you're writing in detail and then going for a rushed approach. No, that is not advisable at all. Right, then after that, be careful about your presentation. Right, make it very clear in your mind that I am going to write a neat and tidy paper, and as much as possible I am going to make a reference to the standards on auditing. Right, as much as possible I'll make use of the technical words when I am writing my answers. Right, make use of the technical words. And just the last remark I want to make over there, that just as evidence has to be sufficient, appropriate audit evidence, we say sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. We say sufficiency refers to the quantity and appropriateness refers to the quality, and we say quantity cannot compensate for quality and quality cannot compensate for quantity. Right, so same thing applies for the ICAI answers also, that your answers which you write in the exam, they have to be sufficient and appropriate. That is quantity and quality, not like BCom paper where there is only quantity, and not only very little by only writing quality. It has to be both quantity and the quality, right? So wishing you all the very best for your upcoming exams, and I want you to go through these particular super 30 questions which have been put on the Google Drive. Link has been provided in the chat box, and apart from that also this particular running notes of the 11 chapters which have been provided to you over here, right? So happy auditing, all the very best, and see you very soon at CA final. Okay, bye bye and study well.